Hey guys, what's going on? It's Colin here again, back with another fan project. I know it's been a while. But before we can unveil that project, I'm up against a problem that seems to happen a lot, which is where my workbench gradually gets covered with a bunch of crap that just needs to get put away before I can even do anything. But let's see, I think I can come up with a little YouTube magic here to do the trick, so let's see. Knew I still had it in me. Alright guys, so up on the workbench here is a yard sale find. I've been driving past this house that's near me that is like a total like junkyard. That's the best way I could describe it. I guess hoarder house, but like even like I would say junkyard. Like rusty crap all over the place, just looks like garbage all over the place. But one time I saw a big sign that said, "Sale! Come look! More around back!" I was like, holy crap. So I took a look around, figuring I kind of just knew that I'd find something there that I would like. I took a look around back. There was a lot of junk there, as I mentioned. Not really much that caught my interest. Well, there was a lot that caught my interest, but none of it was like feasible that I could take home or stuff I wanted. But around back I saw an older Lakewood box fan that wasn't, like, I say older meaning like 90s, like 3rd gen, but it was in real tough shape. It had been sitting outside for a while, plus I already have 2 of them. So I said, yeah, I'm gonna pass, but that's a good sign. There were also random just like fan grills and busted blades and stuff, all from newer crap fans all over the place. But then along the side there was like this like mini like shed thing. I don't know how to describe it, maybe like 4 feet high, and stacked inside there was a bunch of garbage. But sitting all the way up on the top of the pile, kind of like this, was this thing. And it immediately caught my eye. Because honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was one of those 12-inch patent fans from like the late 90s, early 2000s. I'd kind of been after, well, I shouldn't say I've been after one, but if I'd found one, I would have definitely picked it up because it's kind of a childhood fan for me. And I pulled it out, I go, holy crap, it's a Lakewood. That's cool. I've never had like an older Lakewood like this before, especially not like a high velocity fan. And I was taking a look at it, I was like, holy crap, look at the blade pitch on this thing. This thing's got to be decently old. So, I went over and I said, how much? He said 10. I said, how about 5? And he said, fine. So I walked away with a $5 Lakewood HV-12 high velocity fan. Well, that's what HV stands for, and 12 means 12 inch, obviously. But as you can see, it's in decent shape, especially considering it was in an outside storage facility for who knows how long. But aside from like some minor rust and a little bit of botched electrical, it doesn't seem to be all that bad. Cage is in pretty good shape. Just got some rust on like parts like this, and there's some rust on the back of the cage here. And somebody, I think, dropped it or knocked it in here. But the paint on the blades is still pretty decent. The logo's a little busted up, but that might clean up a little bit with the magic sponge. Unfortunately, on the electrical side of things, somebody had a little fun here, got a little creative. I'm pretty sure there's wire nuts in there. Covered with electrical tape, and there's zip ties and stuff. But yeah, that's probably not a good sign. I did test it when I was at the place. It did work on all 3 speeds. It seemed alright. But I just recently went to plug it in. It didn't work anymore. Hasn't been run in between, so I think I probably tripped on the cord at one point, because this has been sitting in my garage for a while waiting to be worked on. Just haven't had the time. But I think I probably messed this up a little bit. But hopefully we'll be able to get it going again. I know the motor's alright at least. Speaking of the motor, we have an information tag here, which I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see. If not, I'll show you later. But on there it says model HV-12, AC 115 volts, 60 hertz, 2 amps, which is 2 amps for this little thing, and then you look at the blade pitch and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Lakewood Engineering and Manufacturing, Chicago, Illinois, made in the USA. And then there's like some other information on the motor here. I believe this is a Fasco motor. I could be wrong. I've been told that they're prone to burning up though, so definitely going to pull that apart, clean it up as best I can. I might even go as far as to add a little varnish to the windings, because I'm sure that will help. Also, it probably desperately needs lubrication. I can see about 2 inches worth of dust in there, so that's good. But I just thought it was a really neat piece, and for $5 I really couldn't turn it down. And it's a nice small fan, which is good because I'm really running out of room at this point. But figured in this video we do a nice little time lapse of trying to get this thing going again. I have relative confidence that we'll be able to make a good fan out of it, but Anyways, guys, I'm going to stop rambling now. I'm not going to bother trying to turn it on because I already know it doesn't work at this point. But figured if I don't keep tripping on the tripod here, we could go ahead and start the time lapse. So let's do that. Now that's a pretty dirty looking motor to me. Let's go ahead and clean the sucker up. Well, you know, I knew that was going to happen, but I didn't listen to myself, and well, the bearing's out now. As long as that goes back in without issues, that'll be alright. But if there are issues, that's not good. So, yeah, that's the thing. Let's hope that's easy to repair. Well, I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this, but if I reach down in here and start poking a little bit, there's some very, very loose windings in here. I can move entire strings. I thought that this was actually broken for a second there. Then I remembered it did work on all 3 speeds when I got it, and I didn't do anything internally to this that I know of, but still. Wow, I don't know if you guys can see that down in there. Probably not, but I'm going to stop playing with this before I break it. Definitely going to look into revarnishing this, which is going to be interesting because I've never done that before. But hey, that will hopefully turn out for the best, as long as I didn't break this motor already by popping that bearing out. But alright, let's continue. Alright guys, so I've gone ahead and I've revarnished this motor. I used this spray-on varnish, and I just went ahead and sprayed 3 coats on. Put one on both sides, let it dry, and repeated. Tried to get in through these vents as best I can, or best I could. And yeah, so I think it's about time to reassemble. If you notice, I'm in a different room right now. I'm in my mud room because my dad's working in the wood shop, if you can probably hear the music. And obviously that's not great for when I need to be working on fans down there, so I'm working in the mud room, which is why it's probably really echoey. But that doesn't really matter because I'm just going to finish up a time lapse here. Hopefully can get this motor all cleaned up and back together. I got to get the varnish out that got on the inside here. Pop this bearing back in, hopefully that will go smoothly. And I can button this all back up, and then I can get to cleaning up the fan and we can finally finish this project. It's been like over a month at this point that this thing's been sitting around. But if not, I'll have time soon to work on it, but either way I want to start working on this, so let's start the time lapse again. Alright guys, so this project's been full of twists and turns. So, if you remember back to the first part of the time lapse, when I pulled this shaft out, the whole bearing came out with it. It was getting stuck on some sort of high spot in this area. And the way that these work is the bearing is kind of like, it's a weird shape. It's like, it comes down to like a cylinder, and then there's a flange, and then there's a rounded part. And the way that it works is the rounded part sits in this like area here, and then there's a flat flange, and there's a bunch of little spring-loaded fingers that hold it down. Then the oil wick goes around those, and then the regular part sticks out towards the back. Now, in order to get that back in, what I should have done is drilled out these rivets and pulled that whole assembly off, stuck the bearing in there, and then put new pop rivets in. But I didn't think of that until afterwards, because hindsight is 20/20. And what I did was I bent back all those little springy fingers and got the bearing in after a lot of cursing. And then bent the fingers back And in the process, several of them got back and forth several times, and in the end, they weren't quite as springy as they needed to be. So when I got the motor finally all back together, what happened was, as soon as I turned it on, the electromagnets, the electromagnetic field pulled this rotor down and the bearing down, and it kind of sat there and hummed because it couldn't turn. So I said, oh great, this thing's really screwed now. And then as I was going to bed last night, I thought of something. I said, you know what, that thing just needs a little more spring to keep the bearing pushed in place. I wonder if I can put a spring on the shaft to push it forward and hold it into place. So today I ran down to the hardware store and bought like $1 worth of springs, and I cut one in there, and on the first try I actually got it. So now what there is there's a thrust washer in the back, the rotor, then in the front there's a spring, and then another thrust washer, and that's pushing up against this. There is still a little bit of forward and backward play, not much, but it actually does turn and run by itself. So I can go ahead and plug this in here for you. It starts up in all 3 speeds by itself. There you go. So it does sound a tad dry to me. That could be because there's extra force rubbing on thrust washers now. That also could be that there's literally not much oil in it yet, because I just put the oil in and it hasn't had a chance to seep in. Oh, that was the other thing. The oil wick that was in here, there wasn't much to begin with, but then once I started poking and prodding, it kind of disintegrated. So I took a little bit of oil wick I bought for one of my antique fans, one that would have like an oil cup, and I cut it and I wound it in there, so at least there's something holding oil in there. But either way, I managed to kind of Frankenstein this thing back together. I don't know how long it's going to last, but honestly, I'm just happy to have it running at this point. So I think it's finally time that we can finally put this fan back together, because what you guys don't realize is that this thing has been sitting in pieces for over 2 months now. So I can finally get around to cleaning the actual fan part of it up, do a little bit of electrical work, put this thing back together, and then we'll finally have a good Lakewood HV-12. So hopefully this is the final stretch. Let's fire up the time lapse, and I'll see you guys when it's done. Well guys, it's finally done. Well, not 100% done. There are still a couple of little things I need to do. Like, I need to make up something like this for the other side, because it doesn't like particularly hold its tilt very well. And this plug has got issues, but it's nothing I'm going to hold up the video for at this point. It's all back together and it runs, and it's running good, so figured I might as well wrap up the video. But this thing actually cleaned up really nicely. All that like rust and crust and crap that was all over this came right off really easily with some steel wool. Got the chrome back, the blades cleaned up pretty good, even the badge and like the switch blade cleaned up pretty well. Still gonna take the magic sponge to this knob at some point. I can get all this crap out of here. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I really was starting to doubt whether this thing was actually gonna run again, at least with its original motor. after the issues I had with it, but it seems to be running alright, so I'm gonna just I'm gonna keep an eye on it, but I'm gonna use it. But yeah, I ended up putting the original cord back on, and the other thing I did, at the suggestion of somebody from Facebook, apparently these motors are prone to burning up for some reason. That's why I revarnished this one, and it's an effort to help that. But in a secondary precaution, I put a replaceable glass fuse down here in all the wiring. I put a 3 amp fuse in there because this fan's rated for a max of 2.5, so hopefully that will prevent any damage from occurring if something were to go wrong. But I just had this running for a good 45 minutes, and the current draw was pretty low. The other thing I found out, which is kind of funny, you remember back to the beginning of this video, the fan wouldn't turn on, and I was confused why? Well, there's something wrong with this plug, because if you twist this wire in the wrong way, it shuts the fan off, which is kind of funny. That, and I don't know if I said this already, but it's missing one of these metal pieces, and I think there was probably some rubber or something that was in there at one point to kind of hold the tilt. So it doesn't tilt super well because it's missing that on this side, so it's just a screw. So as you twist it one way, the screw tightens, and as you go the other way, the screw loosens. But those are all little things I'm going to take care of later. But for now, it's also got a very nice long cord on it. This cord is probably like 6 feet long, if not 8 feet long. But unfortunately the plug is no good, so I'll have to put a different plug on it. But for now, figured I'd fire it up for you guys. It's definitely a very powerful fan. Moves a lot of air, especially with the pitch that's on these blades is ridiculous. But alright, I'm gonna go ahead and point this somewhat away from the camera, and you guys are probably still gonna get some wind noise. There's not really a good spot for this meter. It doesn't like to stand up on its own, so I'll just have to show you while it's running. There we go. Alright, amperage, and it starts up on high. So here we go. Oh, well that was anticlimactic. Gotta wiggle the plug a little bit. There it goes. It's really not a very loud fan at all, especially given the amount of air that it moves and the pressure that's behind that air. Fans with very steeply pitched blades like this, there's a lot of force behind the air it's moving. There's a lot of pressure behind it, so it's a high volume, high pressure output, as you can see based on this paper towel. That's really flapping, but it's really not terribly loud. And the motor says on it 2.5 amps, and this is high speed, and it's only drawing 1.8. So I'm going to guess that this motor is actually pretty healthy in terms of the windings. Go down the medium. The motor's definitely got some torque behind it. That thing gets up to speed real quick. Medium's definitely... there's a very... Well, I should rephrase that. There's a very distinct difference between all the speeds on this fan, which I kind of like. Medium is not loud at all, and it's still a very decent breeze. Again, a lot of pressure behind that. So you can feel this breeze from a very far distance. I'll go down to low. Low, the thing barely spins. I can actually hear the noise of the motor and the bearings over the noise of the fan. Again, it's a much more gentle breeze, but it's still pretty good. So it'd probably make a nice fan to sleep with, honestly, if I trusted the motor a little bit more. But it's got a very nice gentle breeze, but it's still moving a lot of air. It's only drawing 1.2 amps also, which is 89 watts. But yeah, I'm very happy with the way this came out. So we're going to back up to high here and we'll do a spin down. So obviously that spin down isn't great. Fans with very steeply pitched blades like this don't tend to have a ton of spin down as is because there's a lot of air resistance, but I'm also thinking, seeing as though the way I kind of have this motor Frankensteined a bit with that spring, that's going to put a lot of extra friction on it. That's going to cause it to not spin down very well, but it seems to not draw very much current while running at all. The motor does get rather warm. I haven't measured it with a temperature gun yet, It was also running for like 45 minutes before this. Here, let's see. Go on the back here. It's about 140 degrees on the outside. Yeah, that seems to be about the hottest. Oh, 148. That was the max temperature I got. But like I said, it was running for a long time. So I'm not terribly concerned. It's a shaded pole motor. They're going to run warm. But yeah, overall I'm pretty happy. I don't really think it has much of a startup sound. So there's not going to be much of a point in me doing that. But well, I guess on low there's a low one. So here we go. I'll bring this up close to you guys. Be easier than moving the camera over. We'll start it up on low here. And you guys can hear the startup sound. It's very faint, but it's there. I'm going to start it up on high too, just for the heck of it. Just a little hum as it starts up, but yeah, I'm definitely going to let this one run for a little while. I'm going to keep adding oil to it, and then maybe it will free up a little bit. It definitely freed up a little bit just from those 45 minutes of running, but like I said probably 100 times, I'm pretty darn happy with the way this came out. So I think I'm going to end this video here. You guys will probably see this fan in some future videos at some point. Maybe I'll make an update video on it if things change at all, or you'll see it in the spring when I do fans around the house probably, because I do want to use this thing. I like it quite a bit, and it's nice and small too. It's only a 12-inch. Very similar to that patent I'm after that my great aunt had when I was a kid. Well, anyways guys, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely had a fun time working on this thing. This thing had me a little nervous at first, but I think it's going to be a good fan. I think it's going to run for a while. Definitely wasn't your typical clean and service. Had to do a lot more effort, put a lot more effort into it. But anyways, if you did like the video, feel free to hit the little like and subscribe buttons. I'd appreciate that. We've made it to over 200 subscribers, which is really cool. So let's keep it growing, because there's still like 90% of you guys that are watching but aren't subscribed. So I don't know what you're waiting for. But anyways, if you have a comment, leave it below. I enjoy interacting with you guys down there. And I will see you in the next one. It's going to be a good one. Bye.